When most people think of New Orleans, they think of the French Quarter, Mardi Gras, jazz, gumbo. But according to federal officials, one of the most dire threats facing the nation would be a massive hurricane striking New Orleans. They say that if a major storm had a direct hit here, the effect would be devastating. They're talking perhaps as many as 50,000 dead, up to 1 million homeless, and a city underwater. And that disaster nearly happened this past hurricane season. When Hurricane Ivan barreled into the Gulf of Mexico, it was on a collision course with New Orleans, a city with a unique vulnerability to hurricanes.
This is a very dangerous storm. Hurricane Ivan is approaching us.
Fearing the worst, the mayor called for an evacuation of the city.
I've been to a couple hurricanes, but this one looks like a monster.
I'm hoping that it doesn't hit us directly.
Luckily for New Orleans, Ivan veered east at the 11th hour, and the Big Easy dodged a bullet. To get a sense of the damage a hurricane like Ivan would have caused if it had made a direct hit on the city of New Orleans, I met with emergency manager Walter Maestri. What do we got here?
Well, this is a surveyor's rod, and this can extend up to 25 feet, and it shows us just how deep the water would be here if Ivan came through.
And you're getting pretty high
We're
there,
still getting high. Notice
Walter.
we're probably at about the second level, right? There we go. Now watch. We're getting close. We're there.
What are we at?
22 feet is what they tell us could be right here in the French Quarter.
You're saying that this street, French Quarter, under 22 feet of water.
If Ivan made that direct hit, this is what we'd be looking at. We're swimming here. We're like fish if we're alive.
Not good.
Not good.
Just 50 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, New Orleans is at such great risk because most of the city lies below sea level. Settled in 1718, it's sandwiched between the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain.
New Orleans was built on a swamp, and in order to build it, they had to put a wall, a levee, around the swamp, and then pump all the water out. As you pump the water out, you allow oxygen to then get into the soils. The oxygen breaks down the organic matter in the soils, and they lose bulk, and they sink.
To keep the river and lake from flooding this ever-deepening bowl, which is more than 12 feet below sea level in some places, hundreds of miles of giant levees, like this one, now surround New Orleans. To get rid of rainwater that collects in the bowl, 22 pump stations were installed throughout the city. These pumps are so powerful, they can suck up 29 billion gallons of water a day from the city and push it all back out into the lake. Now that's enough water to fill the stadium here in New Orleans, the Superdome, in about 35 minutes. But in a strong hurricane, these pumps would be overwhelmed, and the very same levees that protect New Orleans from floods could be its demise. Hurricanes are whirling dynamos, generating enormous winds. These winds create a gigantic swell of water called a storm surge. And in New Orleans, a storm surge could deliver a fatal 1-2 punch. Approaching from the Gulf of Mexico, the storm surge would push water into Lake Pontchartrain and up the Mississippi River. As the water level rises, it would overflow the levees on the lake, inundating the city from the north. Some people think a strong enough hurricane would push water over the higher levees along the Mississippi River, flooding the city from the south. In this doomsday scenario, levees intended to keep water out trap it inside New Orleans.
And if that bowl fills up, we have no way necessarily to get the water out of here. In essence, Lake Pontchartrain, which surrounds us, is transferred and becomes Lake New Orleans.
If anything, the situation is getting even more dangerous. That's because wetlands that provide a natural defense against storm surges are disappearing. To see how, University of New Orleans geologist Shay Penland takes me for a swamp buggy ride into the bayous just a few miles south of the city. Here, between New Orleans and the Gulf of Mexico, is the largest area of coastal wetlands anywhere in the United States.
So Shay, why do we stop here?
We stopped here because this is an area that was solid land 50 years ago, and today is open water.
Healthy wetlands weaken a hurricane by starving it of warm ocean water, its fuel. But in the last 70 years, nearly 2,000 square miles of this protective buffer have eroded due to man-made and natural causes.
What does all this land loss mean to the city of New Orleans?
The wetlands are our natural speed bump. They're our first line of defense. We have this slow disaster that's kind of eating its way towards the city, then all of a sudden here comes the hurricane, and that major hurricane could be the one on the right track, the right trajectory that puts the storm right down in the city. People can't get out, and we have the 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 dead. And that's the worst case scenario, and that's what we're gambling with right now.
With so many lives at risk, accurately predicting these killer storms is a high-stakes endeavor.
The forecasters do walk a tightrope when they make forecasts for landfall. You don't want to give people the wrong impression about every storm. You move them harmlessly out of the way and nothing hits. It is a cry wolf kind of syndrome.
Just what happened in the wake of Hurricane Ivan. With Ivan closing in on New Orleans, more than 600,000 people evacuated the city. New Orleans shut down. The storm veered off course, but the question remains. When another storm threatens the Louisiana coast, will people evacuate a second time?